Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. How confident are you when it comes to life's biggest money decisions? What is real financial peace and how can you get it? Chris Flaming and Mark Peachy are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. They bring together the brightest minds to show you how to have a more confident financial future. They empower listeners with common sense concepts and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts, LPF Advisors.
All right, everyone, please welcome Vicky Townsend. Vicky is the founder and president of Divorce Right, an employee assistance program company serving companies and government agencies in the U.S. and abroad. She's also the co-founder and former CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, a professional association consisting of the licensed and certified professionals that serve families going through divorce. Divorce costs companies and government agencies over $300 billion a year in lost productivity, errors, absences, and absenteeism. Vicky, thank you so much for joining us to talk about divorce's impact on the workplace.
Absolutely. And just, I know Anthony, just if anybody is listening and needs his services, he is an amazing collaborative professional, and I appreciate his commitment to making this a better process. And I have to apologize because I am doing this from my floor because I'm moving today. But this was such an important thing, what you're doing here today, that I'm literally sitting on my floor in what was my bedroom. So I apologize if this looks a little funky, because it is. But thanks so much for having me. Do you want me to go ahead and just share my screen and start with our presentation?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Fantastic. Okay, let's see. Let's make sure that you got it. Are you seeing my screen? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see your Google slides.
Okay, awesome. Fantastic. Well, so, thank you so much for having me today, because I think I'm in the worst industry in the world. All the bad things that happen to employees as they go through this process, I am somehow involved with. We work with people like Anthony on legal issues. One of the things the last person was asking, what do you go through it when you're scared? I highly recommend a divorce coach. If you need one, please reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with a really good one in your area, or somebody with your expertise. I wish I had known about a divorce coach when I was going through my own. And so they can help you kind of navigate that process, even find you those professionals like Anthony that you need. But we work in the, legal issues, the financial matters, mental health issues, although we don't diagnose, we don't provide legal advice or financial advice. We do understand that this is not just a legal crisis, and it's not just a financial crisis. It is a life crisis. So we are there. I founded Divorce Right to mitigate the impact that divorce has on corporate America, because as the founder, and I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am the founder and president of Divorce Right, and was the founder and CEO of the National Association of Divorce Professionals. And it has always been my mission to make the divorce process a kinder and gentler one on families, just like Anthony. When you're going through such a difficult task of ending your marriage, it can get costly, both financially and emotionally. And in my many years in this industry, I discovered just how much the divorce process costs corporate America and our government agencies. So we're here to bring awareness of the crisis in the corporate world that has yet to be addressed, and that's divorce in the workplace. Divorce costs companies billions of dollars each year and wreaks havoc on employee well-being. So we're here to bring awareness of likely the most expensive operating expense in corporate America, which is yet to be addressed, and that's divorce. divorce. Divorce costs companies hundreds of billions of dollars and wreaks just absolute havoc on anybody that goes through it. And to deny it as an issue, which is really what we've been doing in corporate America, because up until now and divorce rate, there really hasn't been a support system for employees going through the divorce. So we have that solution, and it's in 3 simple products. I'll tell you about that at the end. And why is this important? More than 50% of employees will go through the divorce during their careers. And primarily that's between the ages of 35 and 54. And that's where your upper and middle management, those people that are on a rocket ship to climb the corporate ladder, that's what happens if they go through a divorce, and then their productivity and effectiveness diminishes by about 40% for about 3 to 5 years. And there was a research from Good Housekeeping found that divorce impacts 70% of the workforce at a time, affecting employees, coworkers, management, and the company's bottom line. So that's what we want to help companies do. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about us, who we are. We offer divorce support tools, coaching, divorce coaching, which is so critical in this process, to have somebody that you can lean on, run ideas by, help them get that strategy for you. And we offer you a community, and we're evidence-based and technology driven. So we are a passionate team of divorce professionals with the tools and the training to assist employees and their families manage the stress of divorce. And we provide immediate assistance to mitigate trauma and enable productive, resilient, and committed employees. So what I like to say, and my friend and colleague Ann Collin calls us, is the Red Cross for divorce. We have over 70 divorce coaches, and they are specialists from across multiple disciplines and languages. And typically at a company, they have what's called an EAP program, or an employee assistance program. And in there may be discounts on legal services, or maybe 5 or 6 mental health calls, right, with a therapist. But that's not enough for this process. This process needs somebody to lock arms with that employee, give them some direction and guidance that they so desperately need, and help them through the process. We are not here to help them, what got them here, why is it that they continue to pick the same kind of person to marry and it blows up in their face? That's not what we're here for. We are here to help them get through it as kindly and as gently as we can, saving them money and time and a lot of heartache. So to give you a little bit about the impact of divorce on a company, because divorce, study after study after study shows that divorce costs a company about 40% of productivity and effectiveness from that employee. So a simple company with 1,000 US employees, 3 to 5% of them are going to be at a relationship transition at any given moment. So that's 30 to 50 in the case of this company. Might want to call them the ABC company. And for this exercise, we're going to take the average salary in the United States, which is just about $58,000, and we're going to equate that with their annual productivity and effectiveness. And I think that we can pretty much all come to the same conclusion that you need to make more for the company than you cost, right? So if we take just at that bare minimum that you are breaking even with that company, 30 of those people here, and I'm going low, 30 of those people in a relationship transition equate $1.7 million in productivity, right? Does that make sense? I hope that's making sense to everybody. But we take that $1.74 million minus the 40% in lost productivity due to the divorce, and you're looking at $696,000 in annual productivity loss, plus 10% of these people here are going to quit. So you have to rehire. And that is another expense. So just for this employer with 1,000 employees is losing about $1 million over this issue a year, annually. And it's just statistics. That's all I'm using here. And this is a low end because I remember I've gone very low on productivity. So, do the math on that. Divorce costs companies a lot of money. And why? Because these people are overwhelmed over their head, trying to get through a process that is labyrinthine by design and hard for anybody, even the best of us, to get through this really, really well. But the costs don't stop there. And I put this in here because I want any of your listeners to understand this that's ever been through a divorce. It's really important to understand that divorced women face a 20% increase in breast cancer and a significantly higher risk of advanced uterine cancer. So ladies, if you're on this call and you're listening to that, don't ever miss an appointment. Go have your annuals right. Divorcing men, they suffer higher levels of acute myocardial infarction, so heart attacks, lung, bladder, pancreatic, and colorectal cancers, and they have a 20% higher risk of suicide. Now, I often start this slide a little differently, which is, why do you think when you go to your doctor's office, they ask you for your marital status? This is why they ask you for your marital status. They know what they have to look for. And the statistics are very similar for widow. It's stress. It is stress that causes all of this. And we make it worse by putting them through a punitive and complicated system that they can't seem to get through themselves. It also costs them financially. Divorce is the number one reason single mothers fall into poverty. The average divorce costs in this country between $11,500 and $15,000 per person who has that kind of cash just laying around. So you're likely going to have to sell some very valuable assets. And divorce increases the likelihood of bankruptcy by 22% for men and for 18% for women. So that's why most family law attorneys have a bankruptcy attorney on speed dial. So it is just a part of this terrible process that we've put our people through where they lose their life savings. I believe that we don't have to spend our entire life savings to end a relationship. That makes no sense to me. It doesn't make sense in this country. As a taxpayer, there was a recent study, well, when I say recent, about 10 years ago, the state of Texas hired a friend of mine and a colleague in this industry about the direct cost to government services as a direct cause of divorce. And that number was $3.4 billion a year as a direct result of divorce in the state of Texas. So how crazy is that? That's what divorce does to our country that people don't even think about. And then, of course, emotionally, divorce impacts our mental health with depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. Divorcing employees lose their productivity for an average of 3 to 5 years due to this overwhelming stress of this labyrinthine process that they have to get through. And the stress of their divorce causes a cortisol flood. And that is, that's that fight or flight hormone that we all have. But what happens to it is it comes in and it coats your brain. And because it really rests in those nooks and crannies in your brain, it really causes poor decision making, irrational behaviors, and what many refers to, and I don't know if any of you that are on this have been through a divorce, they refer to it, and I certainly did, as being in a fog and just completely out of your head. So what I'd like to do is just show you this video, and you'll be able to see What this in action? This is divorce in action.
Okay, if you don't feel safe, get off the airplane.
This is your captain speaking, but never like this.
I'll stop and I will fly the airplane. Don't worry, I'm going to let my co-pilot fly it. He's a man. Okay?
It's a total meltdown. The pilot boarded in her street clothes and addressed the passengers over the intercom. Passenger Pam O'Neill couldn't believe what was happening.
She said, let's take a vote. How many of you would like to take off now with me dressed as I am? Or would you prefer that I take 10 minutes to get changed into my cute little uniform? Then she started talking about her divorce and political candidates. And the minute she mentioned that, a gentleman stood up and just yelled, whoa, enough, you're scaring me.
Another passenger, Randy Reese, got up to leave and gave a running commentary on social media. I'm shaking right now. The captain demonstrated that she was not mentally in a safe space. She says, sorry, I'm going through a divorce. The pilot also insulted a mixed race couple on board.
Did I offend you? Okay, so did I purposely offend you? I did. The answer is yes.
The more she tried to convince everyone she was okay to fly, the more people got off.
Flight attendants, please disarm doors.
Anthony Roman is a retired pilot.
Everything went wrong on the flight. The captain clearly was in an emotional state and was having a breakdown. The right thing to do, you don't feel safe on an aircraft, is to take matters into your own head and get up and leave that aircraft.
After 20 passengers insisted on getting off the United Airlines flight, the pilot quietly left the aircraft.
Okay, if you don't feel safe, get off the airplane.
The United Airlines flight from Austin to San Francisco was delayed about 2 hours until another pilot took over. As for the original pilot you saw there, the airline says she has been removed from her duties pending an investigation.
So I have to ask you, who would have gotten off that airplane? I'm going to tell you, I would have. I would have gotten up and out of that airplane. But what I think you saw there was a woman in crisis. She absolutely was speaking and talking in ways that likely she would not speak or talk, especially on an airplane that she was about to be the captain of. So now let me go back to, bear with me for a second as I go back to the presentation. How do I get back there? Let's see. My apologies, guys. Let me just get back to that slide. My apologies. So the Harvard Business Review studied and reported that divorces cost U.S. businesses as much as $150 billion annually. There was a study by a company called Family Innovations. And this study is, probably 15 years old, 10, 15 years old. So do the math on this. Their study showed that it costs U.S. businesses and government agencies about $300 billion a year annually. So do that math. With inflation, we're looking at about $500 billion costing this country annually. So it's a very, very big cost. It is, as you saw with that woman who was obviously in distress, that's what it can do to you. And that's what it does to others. So I wanted to put this slide on there because everybody knows approximately it's just under 50% of first marriages end in divorce. 67% of second marriages end in divorce, and 73% of third marriages end in divorce. And I say that because that second and third marriage, those are your E and C-suite executives. They're your highly compensated employees. They're the ones that walk around with your intellectual capital in their head, and you don't want to lose them. Because remember, 10% of them are going to quit. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a gentleman on one of our LinkedIn Lives who did an academic study on the cost of publicly held companies when the CEO divorces. And it was shocking. The C-suite executive ends up getting approximately $150,000 more in compensation to make up for what he's lost. and his or her, this happened to have been a study with all male CEOs. And his package of shares of the company go up about $2 million. So it is not an insignificant cost to companies, as you can see. That's not even talking about the lost productivity, the lost effectiveness, that sort of thing. So the 5 biggest impacts on divorce on business productivity. First of all, absenteeism. Missing time off of work for divorce-related meetings, new child care schedules, to meet with your lawyers and attend court hearings. And what I'd like everybody to understand is that divorce is a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 industry. That's when the courts are open. That's when your lawyers' offices are open. That's when you need to deal with the matters at hand. So there's going to be a lot of absences if you have a lot of those kinds of meetings. Low productivity, they lack focus. I want to say low effectiveness. They lack focus. They make mistakes. They have low energy. They zone out in meetings and they have lowered output. Presenteeism. This is a kind of a new word in the workplace these days. I think you'll all understand it. It's like, you're sitting there and you're at your desk. You're physically there, but mentally you are just somewhere else. And that is even more expensive than absenteeism, because that presenteeism you don't know about. They're physically there. They're just not effective because they're not focusing on their work at hand. Increased sick leave. Stress depresses the immune system and it causes headaches and migraine headaches, stomach problems, panic attacks, and other physical symptoms that I mentioned in this slide a couple of slides ago. Divorce has a big problem for employers because of a decreased immune system. And we talked about resignation. That's a big one too. 10% of divorcing employees quit their job. Why do they quit their job? They quit their job. The first reason is because they felt unsupported at work. Leave your divorce at home, right? Well, it's impossible to leave it at home when it's a 9 to 5 industry, right? It's very, very hard to do that. So unless you're a nurse that works overnight shifts or for the FAA and you're working evening shifts, more than likely you're going to miss work due to your divorce, and you're going to need some additional time off. And asking an employee to leave that stuff at home just exacerbates a problem, and they quit. The second reason that employees quit is they can't find affordable housing near their work. So they went from a 2-income family to a 1-income family. And now they have to find a home that they can afford, right? Close to where they work, all while juggling child arrangements and things like that. So they quit because they can't find affordable housing. Now, with us at Divorce Right, we actually can help them. We use something called a CDLP, a Certified Divorce Lending Professional. Shout out to Jody Bruns for creating an amazing company that trains mortgage brokers to understand the divorce process. And they can get your employees about a 20% more buying power simply by working with the family law attorney to help them craft a settlement statement that will get that employee more buying power. And then the third reason that they quit, and this is another easy one, is they quit because they can't find affordable childcare, right? So it's really important that if you have the ability to support with perhaps a stipend for childcare, maybe perhaps open a childcare center in your office if you've got that ability, but getting them access to affordable childcare is critical. This is a big, huge expense. Replacing an employee costs about 150% of their salary. So you don't want to lose your employees that are going through a divorce. You just want to support them through this labyrinthine, crazy system. And you've all heard of the Great Resignation. Well, now there's the great divorce. So the post-pandemic impact is actually bigger than the pre-pandemic impact of divorce. So Google search behaviors, there was a 72% increase for the search terms divorce or divorce lawyer. Divorce lawyer inquiry calls increased about 95%. 34% increase in sales of online divorce templates. So if you wanted to go on and do a DIY, there was a 34% increase in those templates. There's been an increase in loneliness and social isolation, married and single. And, the decrease in health benefits from being married is something that you have to worry about. So how are you going to take care of your health when you're no longer married and don't have access to good health care? So we have a few solutions that we bring to employers across the country, but I wanted to tell you a little bit more about divorce coaching. Like I told you earlier, if I had a divorce coach, my life would be incredibly different than it is today. So the American Bar describes divorce coaching as it's a flexible, goal-oriented process to support, motivate, and guide people going through their divorce to help them make the best possible decisions for their future based on their particular interests, needs, and concerns, not on my own. It doesn't have to be what I would do. It has to get them to where they need and want to go. So we start off with a product called Manage Right. It's a divorce awareness and sensitivity training for HR managers and from anybody that supervises people. We teach them, the signs of what somebody is experiencing when they might be going through a divorce. And the reason that's important is because over 90% of your employees will never tell you they're going through a divorce. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to be fired. They're afraid that, there's so much shame in this process. There is, embarrassment, and they're afraid that it's going to get out, and they're going to be office gossip, right? They're going to be the fodder for everybody. Did you know? So people don't come forward. That's why it's important to take this course. It's a 5-hour course for those that are in HR, and we have 5 hours of SHRM professional development credits for you. This one is really cool. And it's super easy to implement. It is called Plan Right. It is your better divorce blueprint. It is a suite of digital divorce solutions. It includes a book, a workbook, and a 10-hour video course that takes you through from, is this marriage really over? Are you sure you want to do this? Those types of decisions to, we tell them the 5 types of divorces that you can use when you're going through a divorce process. Most people think of it as one way. You've got to lawyer up. You don't always have to lawyer up. You can get a mediator or an arbitrator. You can DIY it. I've actually been involved where there was a $143 million estate and they DIY'd it. Why did they do it themselves? Because they knew that they wanted to keep their money and their personal business out of somebody else's business, and they wanted to keep that money for their children. So they, at $143 million, DIY'd it. And I think it's an interesting idea if you can do it and you can manage yourself. If you need somebody to help you keep the temperature in the room down, that's what we're for. That's one of the things that we come in and do. So by the time you are finished with our 10-hour course, downloaded the book, downloaded the workbook, you also have access to a certified divorce coach once a week in a group setting where you can get your questions answered. Again, we don't offer legal advice, but we can help you with strategies and child custody strategies and communication strategies. We can help you with those things that can help you make the best decisions for your particular situation. Resolve Right is our concierge service. It is one-to-one divorce coaching for employees who need or want additional attention. This is really good for complex or high conflict cases. Our divorce coaches include former family law attorneys, former financial advisors, former mental health counselors. We've got divorce coaches that speak Chinese, Japanese, Farsi, the Indian dialects, Russian, Ukrainian, French, Spanish, and of course, English. So we can help you through those cultural divorces, like a prearranged marriage. We even have experts in LGBTQ issues. So whatever you've got facing you, special needs children, immigration problems, we've got somebody that can help you through that. So we have that. These are our coaches. These are some of them in every single niche that we could possibly think of. And then the last product that we have is called Live Right. And that is, just because the divorce decree has been signed does not mean that the problems are over. And I'll give you an example. We're working on a case in North Carolina. They've been divorced 4 or 5 years. He's getting a job promotion to Denmark. And he wants to go and take his kids. And that falls under the category of not only no, but heck no. But we had to work with both of them, help him understand that he has a couple of choices some hard choices he's going to have to make, and helped them have some communication around what's in the best interest for their children. So we're working on a plan where the children get to go to Denmark and travel the world. But in short bursts, they will live in North Carolina as their permanent home. But it's things like that. A lot of financial issues come up after the fact of not unpaid child support and unpaid spousal support. But we also help them with things like, how do you date after you've gone through a divorce? How do you introduce a new partner to your children? And how do you learn how to budget your money? All of those things. We have live webinars, group coaching. We have live events. We're going to be having retreats for those people that want to find that community of men and women and help you move through your divorce with some grace and ease. And you can get back to living your life with joy. And that for us is a super important part of this entire process. Is not just what life looks like as you're going through a divorce, but what life can look like for you long after it's over. And on that note, I am absolutely thrilled to be here, but this is my presentation today. I hope that it was helpful and that it was informative, and that if you have employees, you will help them get through this process so that they can come back and be a focused and engaged employee.
Can we get a virtual round of applause for Vicky, please? All right, Vicky, can you go to participants, panelists, click on the 3 dots next to my name and make me host again?
Okay, let me see it. What do I do? Where are you up here? Hold on.
Panelists.
Panelists and Seth?
Yep, click on the 3 dots next to my name.
Got it. Okay, there you go.
All right. Okay, looks like we got some questions. Lizette says, wonderful presentation, Vicky. Thank you so much. How can we be one of your coaches?
Oh, reach out to me. I'll give you my email address. It's Vicky@divorcerightinc.com, Vicky.
Awesome. Another question. You talked about people not coming forward because of the stigma. How do we help them? How do we remove the stigma so people feel safe telling us this information? That's
culture. That's corporate culture, right? You know the guy I'm talking about. Don't bring that crap here. Get it back home, right? That can't happen and have somebody that feels safe coming forward, right? So we have an actual much deeper training program that's about 10 hours that we'll even go through all of their manuals and help them design, thoughts and ideas around caring for these people because they have been uncared for. If you think about it, there's so much that goes around divorce and this topic in the workplace. And at the end of the day, giving them some breathing room and helping them get through it is the right thing to do, because back in the day there were religious issues on the table for a lot of people, again, a lot of shame and things like that. But when you can change your culture and work to help these people come back to, themselves, find themselves again. And by the way, that fog, if you've been through that fog like I have, raise your hand. I'd love to hear from you, because that fog is real, and that fog is cortisol. And the sooner we can help them get that off the brain. And by the way, there is a neuroscientist out of UC Berkeley, Daniela Coffer is her name. It's at the Coffer Lab at UC Berkeley. And she studies stress on rats. And so she's an expert at that cortisol flood. And do you know what takes the cortisol off your brain the fastest? Yoga and meditation. Right. So that stuff is that you heard is foo-foo and, all of that stuff, woo-woo. It has real science behind it that it can help you with stress.
Awesome. Well, looks like Paul Feinstone, you raised your hand. Do you have a question to type in the Q&A box?
I think he had raised his hand when I asked who would get off that plane.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Would you have gotten off the plane?
I would have gotten off the plane.
I would have gotten off the plane. I mean, I'm sure she was a very competent pilot, but in that moment, she was not. And that moment lasts years, my friends, years.
All right. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. Virtual round of applause, everybody, for Vicky.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Chris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.